Alright guys, let's talk about it. Starfield. This is my first impression / review, and this is going to be my honest take on the game, as a lot of you guys have asked. Is this game worth playing? Is it worth my time? What are your thoughts on it? So I'm going to go ahead and sum it up. Keep in mind, just as a heads up, this is my earlier impressions, as I have not 100% of the game yet. We're about halfway through. I'll try not to show too many spoilers here, but it's just like random gameplay that I'm going to be throwing out in the background here. But starting right off, the important things that I do want to go over. To answer the question really quick, is this game worth your time, or is it kind of a skip? So for me, honestly, the combat feels absolutely outdated. The engine feels outdated. The whole game itself feels like it could have came out a long time ago. Heck, there's games like Dark Messiah, Might and Magic, Deus Ex that have a much better world and a much better gameplay experience. But with the Bethesda game, you do have the options for a relatively decent story, depending on if you want to engage with it or not, and the different choices that you have. And you have this giant world that you can go to different planets, but even though they have tons and tons of planets to go to, some of these planets literally have like nothing. And I'm not even kidding when I say like nothing there. There's like maybe a small outpost that takes you a really long time to get to, and you get a couple of pieces of loot. No, like, oh, there's a guaranteed every single outpost. There's a legendary item. There's a reason to go there. No, there are some areas where it's just like, it's a skip. But starting right off, going over the like core question, I would say in terms of this game, it is very mid for me personally. I still want to play this game because one, it's a new game, and I just kind of like playing new games in general. But on top of that, it's going to support mods. Mods add so much more life to a game in terms of its life cycle. You can add maybe anime girls. You can do a lot more customization. There's a lot of cool things that you can do with mods, and I always love when game developers have mod support for their games. So starting right off, I guess to answer the question really quick, the game is kind of like 50-50. There are going to be people that like the game. There's going to be people that didn't like the game, and there's kind of like a mid. There's not a game that where I can like in terms of like being absolutely definitive where I'm like, okay, yeah, I can instantly recommend this game. It's not like a Metal Gear Rising Revengeance or like a Deus Ex or even like a StarCraft where I can say, yeah, 100%, if you don't like this game, then you're a bad gamer. But for the most part, there will be people that still enjoy this game, and there will definitely be people that are like, dude, what is this combat? It's so slow, it's boring, it's outdated, and I feel the same way. But at the same time, the game is incredibly, and I mean incredibly buggy still.
What is my character doing?
Yes?
What? Will he actually... What is the AI doing? Bro, what? Are you...
What did I even die to?
But the next thing I want to go over is graphics. This is something that I kind of want to give you guys a couple different categories here. So starting right off with graphics. The game looks totally fine for me. I know there's people that are like, dude, these graphics are bad. And like, I just don't see it. I think they're totally fine. But if you compare like to 2022 versus to 2023, sure, you can find screenshots of different areas in any video game where like as time evolves, maybe they did it to save certain like resources so they can make, you know, other things much more larger. The draw distance is much further. I don't really care about graphics. I could play RuneScape or Diablo 2 graphics. It doesn't bother me. The core thing is the game good? And the answer, it's kind of just a lot of content versus what I would consider quality content. Again, this is definitely seen when you go out and venture out in the space. We'll talk about perks in a moment here, which I think is kind of lackluster, I'm going to be honest. But the world itself, it does look kind of cool, but since I covered Diablo a lot of people want to be like, how's the loot in this game? The inventory system, I want to say, is absolutely terrible. It really needs like a huge overhaul, like the way that like you basically equip certain things. I think it could be done way better. You basically have no inventory space like at all. But they do it because you're supposed to only be able to hold a certain amount of items, so you don't just steal every single thing that you come in contact with. So that could be like a game design decision. But as far as the loot goes, I would say the legendaries are actually pretty cool. You can see over here that this legendary knife that we got earlier on, it does double damage to targets with full health. So I think that that's way cooler than just like, oh, legendary item does more damage. Technically, like, it does, but it has like some sort of condition. I think that's kind of cool in terms of game design to have something have more effects, so to speak, versus just numerical stats. And here's like another gun over here that has another set of legendary mods. But I like the idea of these legendaries existing in the game. I think they did a relatively decent job. Another thing I want to go over is the skills. So as far as the skills go, I got really excited when you get to pick your class, and basically there's like have a bunch of different classes that you can select from in the very, very earlier stages when you are creating your character, which we can go to real quick. I think this is kind of something that is relatively important, right? When you make your character, the character creator is okay. It's not something like Black Desert where you get to customize every single thing, but you get to select like a different background and you can select some different perks. But and I was super excited when I saw all these, and then I go into the perks and I'm reading these. I'm like, okay, rank 1, ballistics does 10% more damage. Rank 2, okay, 20%. Rank 3. I was like, okay. There's several of these, like laser weapons, 10%, shotguns, 10%, and there's just like 10, 20, and then like sometimes there's a more interesting one towards the end. But I was really disappointed. I think in terms of this game, is it adding anything new to this, like, you know, RPG, choose your own story, adventure genre? And I would say, no, not really. It's kind of more of, you know, if you enjoy Bethesda games, you'll probably still enjoy this game, although there's lots of bugs. But for the most part, I think it's like doable because there's so many different things that you can go for. But again, this is what I would consider uninspiring sort of a skill tree. I want more crazier things where like you can do, I don't know, more things in the game. Technically, there is more things. I won't go into spoilers, but for the most part, in the earlier stages of the game, you're not going to have like, I don't know, like another like bionic like arm to come out that has a cannon. It's not Doom Eternal's combat. The combat, again, is one of like my biggest points of like, I really didn't enjoy the combat too much with this game. And again, it's because it absolutely feels outdated. You guys are actually listening to the soundtrack. I think they did an excellent job in the soundtrack department. That is totally fine. It fits the game very, very well. But there's another thing that I really didn't like in the game, and that is actually this stamina system. So in this game, you have a stamina system. And I think the stamina system in any video game, I've never been a fan of just stamina systems in general, because I just feel like it slows down your gameplay experience. You'll see, oh, well, you guys can see a glitch now too. I mean, there's a lot of glitches in this game. But on the bottom left over here, when you're like just running around, when you run around, your oxygen will like deplete, and once it depletes, you start losing HP, and it kind of makes it so like even when you're just running around the world, because keep in mind this world's pretty big, you have to like stop. I could understand if you're in combat and you have to use your stamina and it goes down, like it's like Dark Souls, right? You gotta dodge or whatever, and that uses stamina, so you can't just keep on like dodging and running and evading. But it's like when you're just walking from point A to point B to run over there, and then you'd be like, okay, I gotta literally wait for my stamina bar to go up, and then I can run again. Especially in like towns, like come on, this is just something that's just intentionally slowing you down. And speaking about slowing down just in general in the game, there are so many times in this game where you're like, okay, I want to go to a different area. So you have to load, go open up, travel to here, and you can't just go travel from point A to point B. Sometimes it's like, oh, if you want to go to from point A to point B, you have to take this detour, land on this planet, go here, wait for a few seconds, let you dock over there, and then you can go over. It's just like a bunch of slowdowns that I feel like are absolutely unnecessary. They do kind of speed things up where some areas let you just go right to the cockpit or go right to the area, but there are a lot of times where you have to do this, you have to take off, and it's like, okay, it's got this loading screen. And when these things add up, I mean, you're probably spending several hours if you beat the entire game, especially if you want 100% everything. You might be spending a couple hours, not even joking, just sitting here just kind of waiting for things to happen. It could be a clever way for them to kind of hide loading screens, so there's kind of a plus with that in a sense, but overall, there's just a lot of like, dude, why do I want to wait and load for here, go here, land over here to only have to go leave and land in a complete other area, gotta find the planet, rotate it, and find out where I can actually land. There's a lot of what I would consider like fluff, busy work, and I just don't like that. I don't think that these are necessary things for games unless you are trying to maybe 100% the game. But to wrap up my thoughts over here, is this game worth your time and money? I would say yes. It's got tons of content, but the content itself, again, is just like really outdated stuff, and that's the reality of it. And I'll give it to you guys straight. Some people were coming to my live stream like, what makes this game like, you know, super cool and amazing? And I would have to say, well, it's just kind of got lots of content. And again, mod support is kind of the main thing that I'm looking forward to in the future. And I still, at least at this moment, plan to give you guys like a full walkthrough playthrough of my experiences, and I'll be uploading some funny highlights. And honestly, the glitches in this game are pretty bad as of right now. But the way I look at it in terms of glitches is, well, that could be funny, like content to clip up, right? So at the end of the day, that's a win for me, but it does definitely ruin your immersion. And another thing I want to touch upon in terms of the other characters in the game, so far I haven't met a character that I'm like, wow, this is super amazing. Like in Baldur's Gate, like almost every character that you meet just feels like that they have like an entire background, they have a story built around them, and I think that is really, really unique and cool. So some people ask, you know, should I get this game or Baldur's Gate? No question, like I can answer that immediately. Baldur's Gate, to me, is just an overall better game if you can only pick one of these games. But overall, I think that both the games, you know, are going to be maybe even contenders for Game of the Year. Again, this one's more niche. Baldur's Gate, definitely, no questions asked, because they are kind of slimmer games. I know one's an FPS, but this game's like combat is not like rapid fire, super like fast like Doom, which I would love if they just got the copy and pasted the Doom combat and threw it in this game. Then this game would be an absolutely amazing experience, minus the inventory system. But anyways, that's my thoughts. Let me know your guys' guys' down below. Again, this is my first impressions of it, and I will update you guys in the future when I have maybe 100% of the game if I decide to, but I'm about halfway through the game, and this is a video to kind of suffice to answer your guys' question. At least as of right now, that's my thoughts on the game. Anyways, if you guys enjoyed the video, drop a like on it. Love to know your guys' thoughts down below on Starfield, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.